Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was the Reincarnation of Madara Uchiha Part 1. Before we start, please go support Nagash Blackhand for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 1. We found ourselves in a park in the city of Kuo. In it, we could see a 17-year-old boy lying on the ground with a hole in his stomach. This was caused because his supposed girlfriend was a fallen angel who had the mission of killing him for having a sacred gear. The boy was in his last minutes, but a quick thought passed through his head. It was the girl he had seen a few days ago, a certain Rias Grimoire. After a few seconds he saw a red light appear and then dissipate, revealing a head of red hair. It was the only thing he could see before falling unconscious. When the boy woke up, he looked at himself from top to bottom, seeing with surprise that his wound was no longer there. Issei. What happened? Was it all a dream? He said in a whisper. What he didn't expect was for someone to answer him. It has not been a small floor, everything that has happened is real, only that a girl appeared in a magic circle and healed you. From there you do not have the wound and you are still alive. Issei raised his head, could see a man with long hair and armor, similar to that of the Red Samurai. He wore black pants, along with sandals of the same color, only that on his ankles he wore bandages. Looking at the man's face, he could see a serious face and red eyes with 3 black marks on them. Issei. Who are you and where am I? Calm down, kid, you're in your subconscious since you fainted. And who am I? I'm Madara Uchiha Madara. Then he looked at the boy who was going to say something, but was silenced by Madara. Madara. Listen to me and pay attention, as I will only repeat it once. You are my reincarnation. You are the one who carries the powers of the greatest Uchiha that ever existed, so I will train you, and I hope you do not disappoint me, the Uchiha said with authority. In the end, when Issei relaxed, Madara was able to tell him in more detail what it means to be his reincarnation, along with his story and how he got here. This is how they trained the most basic of a ninja. Of course everyone understands that basic is a simple thing. Well, they are right. If we do not count that the trainer is Uchiha Madara, who exploded without any consideration to the brown-haired boy. He learned quickly, since if he failed in some exercise he would be seriously injured, but being in his subconscious he regenerates, of course the pain was present. Finally the alarm clock rang, waking the brunette up, who got up to get dressed. But before he went down to have breakfast, Madara stopped him. Madara. Before you go down, let me tell you a few things. You can communicate with me just by thinking. I'll tell you this before you answer me by speaking in front of everyone. Now you can go down while I explain. Issei listened to pay attention to the Uchiha. Madara. Very well, the first thing is that I don't want you to keep having that perverted side, it would damage my image and yours, although from what I see you don't care. Second, you will improve your physique, since you are pathetic. And lastly, you will stop associating with your 2 perverted friends. Issei. What? But they are my best friends. Madara. I don't care, those boys are a distraction from your training and your revival of your perversion, if you can call it that. For now, I don't want you to go with them. When you're done, you can go back because you don't have to do perverted things. Issei. Okay, by the way, a question: what would happen if I meet another fallen angel? Madara. I'll take control in the battle. I don't want you to lose to someone so weak again. I'm ashamed. Issei. Okay, but you don't have to be like that. Madara just stayed silent and then spoke, diverting the topic. Madara. By the way, every day in your free time you will enter your mental space to train. When you have an acceptable level you will train only at night. I am one of those people who, if I train someone, it will be 100%, but I know that if you put too much strain on the body there can be repercussions. But that does not mean that it will be easy for you. Issei. Okay, but just calm down. In that, the brown-haired boy arrived at his academy, where without taking much importance he went to his classroom. Once there everything went normally, until a certain duo of friends approached him. Mitsuda. Hey Issei, are you coming to see the Kendo club members change? She said while having a perverted face and salt dripping from her mouth. Issei's eyes lit up, but he quickly remembered what Madara mentioned to him. Issei. I'm sorry guys. But I've already left those topics behind. He said while making a pained face and clutching his chest. Motohama. How can you say that? Are you okay? Do you have a fever? Issei. I'm not okay, I'm just not interested in that fantastic world anymore. He said as he started to cry. The 2 boys decided to leave, but not very happy. Meanwhile, everyone in the class was with their mouths open. You already know why. Issei. I hate you, he said between tears. Madara. I don't care. Wait, are you crying? How old are you? In the end Issei calmed down. So the rest of the hours passed until it was time to leave. At that point Issei, upon leaving, began to wander around the city until he saw that it had already gotten dark. Issei. Damn it, my mother will kill me. he said as he started running towards his house. But as he passed in front of the fountain where he was killed, a spear of light passed by him, causing him to stop. So Raynor didn't finish the job, what a shame that you ran into me, since I'll kill you right now, he said to throw another spear of light. But this time it was deflected by the brown-haired boy's hand. How did you deflect my spear? You're just a simple human. Madara. Damn, that disgusting body. I think the physical training will be more intense. Don't ignore me, damn kid, you don't know who you're facing. I'm Donosik and I'm going to kill you. He couldn't finish as Madara had landed a blow to his stomach, making him spit blood. Madara. Silence. He said to hit him again and send him crashing into a tree. Madara. You're no good to me even as a warm-up. You'll serve as physical training for this boy, though. He said, looking at the fallen boy who was slowly getting up. Donosik. Cursed. He said to create multiple spears of light and throw them at the brown-haired boy. He just made some hand poses and whispered the technique. Madara. Mokuton, wood style. Wooden stakes. At that, multiple wooden stakes came out of the ground, but not content, he made a hand sign, causing the stakes to shoot out towards the fallen one. The spears pierced the fallen one. Madara. Damn, he was so devilish that he didn't even serve to train the boy's physical condition. He then turns his head to the side, looking at a certain Reed. Madara. So you're the girl who healed me? He said, staring at the girl. Who are you? I know you're not Issei. Madara. I don't believe that it's rude to ask someone's name without introducing yourself. Rias. My name is Rias Gremory, now tell me who you are. Madara. It would be a waste of time, so I'll finish this quickly. He said to activate the Sharingan and knock the Reed unconscious. Issei. What echo does it have? Madara. Nothing important, I just put him in an illusion. When he wakes up, he'll only remember that you managed to escape from the fallen one. Issei. But that didn't happen. Madara. That's why I'm so excited. If she knows about this, it would cause a lot of trouble, and I doubt you'll be able to handle it. Even if I had killed her, but being the sister of one of the current demon kings, it's not worth it to me. Issei. Wait, you're saying that the most beautiful and popular girl in the academy is a demon, and that her brother is one of the kings of these? He said, taking control of his body. Madara. Yes, now get out of here, he'll wake up soon. He said so that Issei listened and ran off to his house. When he arrived, he had to endure his mother's scolding for arriving at such an hour. In the end, he went to bed without dinner while cursing Madara for not helping him get home later. On the other hand, Madara just turned a deaf ear. That's how the night passed, where the brown-haired boy trained again with the Uchiha, making his skills increase along with his physique. Thanks to being in his mental space, he could make time go by slower, but not much, since he had his limitations. When the brown-haired boy woke up, he went to clean his face to see with surprise that his hair had grown a little and its brown color was turning black. Issei. But what the hell happened to my hair? Madara. Nothing out of the ordinary. If your physique changes when you train in your mind space, your features will change as well. In your mind space, it's been 4 days. It's normal for your hair to grow, and for the black hair it's simple. All Uchihas have hair of that color, and if you start to have it, it means that you are accepting the cells of that clan. In this case, mine. Issei, upon hearing the explanation, was left with a face of disgust as he thought badly about assimilating Madara's cells, causing a certain Uchiha to have a mark on his forehead. Madara. You're seriously so childish. Issei made up an excuse and left for the academy. Upon arriving, the students also noticed the change. But they didn't pay attention to it. In the end, Issei sat down in his seat to pay attention to class. Something that surprised him since he never did it. But he thought it was the work of Madara's cells. In the end, the break came where a blonde boy with a mole on the bottom of his eye entered his classroom, arriving in front of the brown-haired boy who looked at him without saying anything. Chapter 2. Issei was sitting in front of the prince of the academy, better known as Kiba. Madara. Alright boy, now you'll have to acquire my personality, so think about what I would do in this situation. Issei. Well, I think you would look at him with an impassive face while you release your killing intent. Madara. Exactly, so do it. Issei. I can't. You haven't taught me how to release killing intent. Madara. Sigh. Very well, this time I will do it so you can do it later. Madara. Thoughts. I, the great Uchiha Madara, teaching a brat the most basic things. I hate myself, but if I want to turn my reincarnation into one worthy of such a burden, I'll do whatever it takes. When I finished, I took control of the brown-haired boy's body and then looked at Kiba with his typical face while releasing a great killer instinct. Kiba saw the look and the tremendous killing intent and was very uncomfortable, but he had to remain firm, so he didn't reflect it. Madara. What do you want? He said in a cold voice, so much so that all the students who were talking fell silent and looked at the pair. Kiba. I'd like you to come with me, please. He said with a nervous smile. Madara. And why should I do that? She said as she stood up from her seat and looked at him with her impassive face, but this time with a lock of her hair covering one of her eyes. Kiba's thoughts. How can the academy pervert have such an attitude and such a killing instinct? Madara, hearing no response, became impatient and hit Kiba in the stomach, leaving him on his knees. Madara. I'll only repeat it once, understand? When I ask you something, answer immediately, understand? When he didn't get an answer, he crushed the blonde's face against the ground with his foot and approached his head. Madara. I told you that you understood, useless demon. Kiba, upon hearing that, tried to stand up with all his might. But to his horror he couldn't. When he looked up he could see Madara looking at him as if he were the most insignificant thing in the world. Kiba. Yes, I understand. He said in a halting tone. At this, all the students' eyes were wide open, and it was no wonder, the academy's pervert had now changed, both his way of being and his appearance. And to top it off, he made Kiba kiss the ground. Madara. Very well, now take me to Rias. After all, that's what you came for. With that said, Kiba opened his eyes and looked at Madara, who had already removed his foot from the blonde's head. Kiba. Did you already know that? Madara. Of course, it's easy to realize. But let's go now, I'm in a hurry, he said to give control to Issei, who continued on his way. Kiba followed him out of the academy, then the brown-haired boy spoke. Issei. I'm sorry about before, there are times when I can't control myself. He said with a serious face. Kiba nodded and continued on his way. Meanwhile Madara shook his head at how weak his reincarnation was. After a while they arrived at a seemingly abandoned building, but once inside it was another story. Issei. He couldn't hide his amazement at seeing how an abandoned building had such an interior. But then he recovered when he remembered that Madara had told him that it was demons that were inside here, so he ignored it. They went up to the second floor, finding a door, which Kiba knocked on to receive a pass. Once the doors opened and the two entered, Issei could see 3 more people. One was small with white hair and yellow eyes, who was eating a cookie with an expressionless face. This was Kaneko. At the desk was a Redeed with blue eyes and a great body. This was Ria's Gremory, and last but not least was Akeno. A girl with black hair and violet eyes, and with a better body than her friend Ria's. Kiba. I've already betrayed President Issei. Ria's. Thanks Kiba. You may sit down. Seeing how Kiba sat down, she continued to speak. Ria's. You're probably wondering why you're here, right? Issei. Not really, I already have an idea of what it's for, so hurry up. I don't have all day, demon. He said, trying to take on Madara's personality. Who just nodded his head. Ria's. How do you know we're demons? She said, surprised. Issei, that doesn't interest you. That's what Kiba said. Kiba. Hey, don't talk to the president like that, otherwise he couldn't finish because Issei looked at him with a look similar to Madara's, which had an effect and made the blonde shut up and lower his head, surprising everyone with what the brown-haired boy caused. Issei. Well, tell me what you want or I'm leaving. At that, the Redeed came out of her astonishment and answered quickly. Rias. I want you to join my entourage. Issei. And why would that be? Rias. You have a sacred gear. Which one? I don't know. Issei. And how do you activate that thing? Rias. Raise your arm and think of someone strong. Issei did as instructed, and after a few seconds he opened his eyes to see a red gauntlet with a green gem. Issei. And this is? Rias. That gauntlet is one of the 2 celestial dragons, in this case the Welsh dragon. Drag. One of its abilities is to double the power of its wearer every 10 seconds, of course everything depends on the wearer's stamina. Issei. Interesting. Rias. And now you will join our entourage. Issei. No. He said as he began to retreat. Rias. Wait, we told you how to activate your sacred gear. Issei. And I thank you, but I didn't say anything about joining you. At that the Redeed stood up to speak seriously. Rias. Well, you leave me no other choice, if I win you come to my entourage. And if I lose I will do whatever you ask me. When Issei was going to ask what he had to do, he had to dodge a punch from Kaneko, which destroyed part of the ground. Issei. So it will be a fight, right? Not receiving an answer, he turned his head to see a sphere of destruction, which was dodged by the brown-haired boy, who jumped back to get out the window and see the explosion of the attack. Madara's thoughts. This is wrong, I know he can fight them, but he won't come out well due to his lack of experience. I think it's my turn to act. He thought to create a clone and disappear. Returning to Issei, he was watching the Gremory entourage which was already outside the building. Issei thoughts. Damn Madara, won't you take my body? I won't be able to fight them. Madara. Regrettable, I can't, I'm a clone. And right now I'm doing some things that will help you. So concentrate. In that Kaneko launched herself again against a brown-haired man who covered himself with his forearms, which created a tingling in them. When Issei Code threw the white-haired girl away, he couldn't help but move his arms to regain sensitivity. At that point he had to dodge another attack, this time from a certain blonde who was attacking him with a sword. Issei was dodging the cuts until another attack from Akeno distracted him, causing him to do a backflip. That created an opportunity for Kiba to find an opening. He went to make a vertical cut, but then the brown-haired boy looked down, showing red eyes with a tomo in both eyes, better known as Sharingan. Issei, knowing why he now saw everything slower, decided to act. He quickly landed on the ground and stopped the blonde sword by stabbing it into his hand and using force so that Kiba couldn't pull it out. This surprised everyone, since he injured himself to leave his opponent unprotected. Using his memory, he remembered what Madara taught him, which for the Uchiha was the simplest, the Kaiten Jutsu, Great Fireball. So at great speed, he made the seals and fired the ball at bare feet towards the blonde, who could not do anything and fell unconscious, and with several burns after the technique ended. Kaneko, seeing this, rushed without thinking to hit the brunette, who only turned around and deflected the albino's punch. He then hit her in the stomach, which made the little girl kneel, leaving the way clear for Issei to kick her in the head, knocking her unconscious, but not before having slid on the ground due to the force exerted in the kick. Issei, without any sign of regret, looked at the two gramarye pieces on the ground. He then turned his head slightly to make eye contact with Rias and Akeno. The girls were startled when they saw the blonde's eyes and the smile on his face. Issei. Well, are you letting me go, or on the contrary, we'll keep dancing? He said as his smile grew bigger. He then ran towards the two girls, causing Akeno to get in the middle and put up a barrier, but Issei wasted no time looking Akeno in the eyes and letting Madara's clone do the rest. Rias could only watch as Akeno stepped forward to create the barrier, but in a moment she stood still and fell to the ground, leaving her unprotected. She tried to throw a sphere of destruction, but it was of little use since Issei was behind her with a kunai. Issei. It seems I've won, I'll come for my reward, he said as he began to leave. But then the Redeed stopped him. Rias. How did you do it, and where did you get that weapon? Issei. I did it with training, and I got the weapon from somewhere. You don't think that knowing that there are supernatural beings I'm going to go unprotected? Well, I'm leaving, he said to go home, which didn't take him long. When he arrived he did what he always did, he showered, changed, had dinner and went to his room. Once he arrived he threw himself on the bed and then fell asleep. Once he fell asleep he appeared in his mental space, meeting a certain Uchiha who had a small smile. Madara. It seems that you are finally acquiring my personality, but you are doing it very slowly, so I am going to sweat a little on you, he said to create 4 colons which dissipated. Chapter 3. Issei was looking at Madara, who didn't seem to care. Issei. And how will you help me? Madara. I will help you by modifying your cells. Issei. What the hell? Madara. As you heard, I will modify your cells and genes so that you absorb the characteristics of the Uchihas as quickly as possible. I have tried before, but I made a mistake and made you unlock the Sharingan. Issei. That's why I woke him up. But that's good, couldn't you do it to unlock the other stages? Madara. Don't even think about it, I won't do it, for me to do it you will have to train to a certain level, at which point I will release a phase of the Sharingan. Issei. And why do you want to do it like that? Madara. If I did it directly, you wouldn't be able to use the Sharingan at 100%, making you weaker, since you would have a huge chakra drain. And the other reason is so that you don't always depend on me. Also, thank me for doing it this way, since the Sharingan awakens in situations of death or with enormous training, so I'm making things easier for you. Issei. Sigh. Okay, and returning to the previous topic, what will you change now? Madara. I will change your attitude, not completely, but just enough for you to earn respect as a high-caliber Uchiha. Now go, I'll be busy. If you want to make the most of your time, train or do something with your sacred gear. He said to kick Issei out of his mind space. Issei. Shit, what time is it? He said to look at the time and see that it was 3 in the morning. Issei. Damn Madara. He couldn't let me sleep. He said to sit on the bed and take out his sacred gear. Issei. Alright, how do you use this? He said as he began to make movements with his arm. But then a voice rang out throughout the room. So my carrier has already awakened me, and from what I see you are trying to use my power, right? Issei. Huh? Who said that? It was me. Said the voice, but this time coming from the gauntlet. Issei. Ah, so you're that red dragon, your name was Drage. Dragus. No, what was it? My name is Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor. He said the last words with pride. Issei. And is there any way to get into boost gear? Drake. Yes, it is by meditating or falling asleep, if you want you can enter. Issei. Well then I prefer to sleep, that way the hours pass faster. He said to fall asleep again and enter his sacred gear. Upon entering he could see a somewhat hot landscape, it was no wonder, since it looked like hell itself. About it another time. Issei. Well, it's no is it just me or am I getting taller? Greg. No, partner, you're changing. At that, Issei looked at himself in the lava to realize that he couldn't see anything since lava is not like water. Issei. What a disappointment. So, what time is it? Greg. It's 7 in the morning. Issei. Shit, I'm going to be late. He said to go out to the real world to get up shitting milk. Issei. Shit. He repeated while doing what he always did. After finishing getting dressed he went to the living room to start breakfast. At that point Issei's parents noticed a small change. Issei's mother. Hey Issei, what happened to you? Issei. What do you mean? Issei's father. To your change. Issei. My what? At that the brown-haired boy's father handed him a small mirror so he could look at himself. At that the brown-haired boy noticed that his hair had grown longer and his facial features looked more like Madara's. Issei. Madara. Madara? Yes. He said, trying to avoid the answer. Issei. What have you done? Didn't you say you would change me a little faster? What I see here is a total change. Madara. The great Uchiha Madara is currently unavailable. Please leave your message after the beep. Beep. Issei. You don't know how much I hate you, at least give me an excuse for this change. Hello. Bastard, since you've screwed up, help me. He said to look at his parents. Issei. Well, how do I explain a change of luck? He asked in case you didn't believe him. Issei's father. Well, what a change. He said, still half gone. Issei's thoughts. I don't even believe it worked. If I had known before how naive my parents are, I would have hidden the failed exams. He thought while having another thought of his mother with a failed exam and a flip-flop in hand. Issei. Well, I'm going, it's getting late. He said to get up, but his mother stopped him. Issei's mother. Where are you late? You know today is Saturday, right? The brown-haired boy stopped to look at the calendar. Issei. I already knew that I had arranged to meet some friends. He said as he ran away. As soon as he left he hit the wall repeatedly. Issei. Holy crap, is that why I wake up early? He said as he walked away from the house to take a walk. Here the same thing happens as in the series. He runs into Asia and takes her to church and then goes home. He doesn't go to the club since it's a party and he's not a member. So the 2 days passed, which Issei spent training and learning new techniques and fighting styles. In the end the days flew by without him realizing how much, making him return to the usual routine. Back to the academy. The day passed slowly as classes were boring. But at the end, when he was about to leave, a certain blonde boy appeared. Kiba. Issei Arias wants to talk to you again. Issei. Again. What does he want? Kiba. I don't know. But I'd appreciate it if you'd accompany me. Issei. Sigh, okay, but this will be the last time I go. He said to get up and leave. After a few minutes the brunette arrived at the door where the Redeed was. Arias. You may come in. She said to see the brunette enter. Issei. Why did you call me again? He said with a stoic face and an impassive look. Arias. I called you because I don't want you to go near that girl or the church. You might create another war between factions. Issei. You know I'm not a devil, right? That implies that I can do whatever I want, so why don't you stop screwing around and leave me alone? Riaz became enraged by what was said, but was surprised to see that no one in her entourage was defending her. Normally someone would jump to defend her, but in this case not. Looking at his servants he could see how they all had their eyes on the ground and were not making eye contact with the brown-haired boy. Issei. What's wrong, Riaz? Are you defenseless? Don't you have anyone to protect you? The brunette asked as he approached until he was face to face with the Gremory. Issei. You're just a helpless girl who depends on others. Now sit down and pay attention. He said as he activated the Sharingan, further intimidating the Redeed, who immediately sat down. Issei. Now you're going to tell me what you want. If not, I swear you'll spend some horrible this mark on you so they know you're an ally of the House of Gremory. Issei. Very well. But I warn you that you will not have any authority over me, I am free. If you dare give me any order I think you know what will happen. He said seeing how everyone swallowed hard due to the brown-haired boy's threat. The hours passed like this, where they put the mark on him and informed the brown-haired boy of everything he didn't know. After finishing, Issei headed towards his house. To do what he always did. Eat dinner and get ready for bed. But before he could even lie down, he fell to his knees while putting his hands over his eyes. Issei. Damn, why does it hurt so much? He said, and after a few seconds he fell unconscious. When he opened his eyes he found Madara looking at him more seriously than usual. Issei. Madara, can you explain to me what's going on? Why did my eyes hurt? Madara. We have a big problem, Issei. And that problem comes from your eyes. If we don't, and began to put him inside the hole. Issei. What's going on, he said to see Madara with a serious face. Madara. There are only two options. Either you come out as a new person or you die trying. He said as he watched Issei disappear into the dark mass. Chapter 4. We found ourselves in a desolate landscape which only had land and dead trees. Then a certain chestnut tree appeared among the dark mass that had brought it to this place. Once it had left the mass, it left the chestnut tree alone. Issei. Holy shit, what was that? Now how do I get out of here? He said looking at the landscape. Madara. Well, that's simple. He said appearing next to the brown-haired boy. Issei. Hey Madara, how did you get into whatever this is? And how do I get out? Madara. I didn't come in, I just left a bit of my chakra in you and then appeared. But this is only temporary, so listen carefully. He said to see how Issei was paying all the attention possible. Madara. Well, do you remember what I told you before about what we had to control? Well, that's what it's about, what you have to control are Hashirama's cells. Issei. Wait, if I'm your reincarnation and you possess their cells, why do I have to control them? Madara. Because I chose it that way along with the sage. I could have just given them to you, but I don't think that's right and it would have been a waste of a lot of training. Issei. And what kind of training? Madara. Shit. He said to slowly turn around and see a black and silver dragon with bright red eyes. In the image it appears with 2 legs and wings, but in my story it is like a normal dragon, 4 legs and wings on its back. The image is so you can see what the body and its shape are like. So you're the boy I have to stop from controlling his powers. You look like an insignificant worm. Issei. And who are you? He said, getting down to business in any situation. My name is Alduin the World Devourer, and I am in charge of preventing you from unlocking your abilities. I think it is not necessary to explain that it is to death. So let's begin. He said to throw a fireball at the chestnut tree which he dodged with difficulty. So 5 months passed. In which Issei spent his time fighting, running and hiding so he could sleep. In all this time he made great progress in all areas, hand-to-hand combat, with weapons, reflexes, but what cost him the most to improve was the Sharingan, taking it to the level of the Mangekyo Sharingan. At this time he was resting as much as he could, since those breaks only lasted 15 minutes at most, since later Alduin found him. And this case was no exception. Alduin. Ben here worm. He said trying to bite the brown-haired boy who just jumped. Issei. Don't you get tired or what, you've been going non-stop for 5 months. Alduin. Hahaha boy, I'm a dragon god, I have infinite endurance. If I want, I can fight until the end of time in a battle, and I'll continue as if I hadn't fought, hahaha. Issei. Well, I didn't know that, but it's time to end this, how about you face someone your own size? Alduin. What do you mean, worm? He said as he watched a brown-haired boy take on Madara's personality and activate his Mangekyo Sharingan. Issei thoughts. This is going to hurt a lot. He thought and then shouted a simple word. Susanoo, and that a skeleton with only the waist up appeared, slightly surpassing the dragon in height. At that, Susanoo hit the dragon's head hard, sending it flying. Issei. Alright, I have a little time. This is going to make my whole body and eyes hurt for a week, he said as he took out a seal along with a kunai. At that, his eyes began to spin. Issei. Amaterasu. He said so that black flames came out towards the seal, which upon making contact with the flames, were absorbed by the paper. At that the dragon appeared again. Alduin. I have to admit, that was quite a hit. I think if you control it 100% I would be defeated with ease. But this is not the case, is it? I see in your eyes that you are suffering for the technique. Let's see how far you can go. Issei. You won't see anything since this is over. He said throwing the kunai with the tag hooked on it. Alduin laughed seeing that, since no weapon could harm him, and indeed, when it touched his skin the kunai broke, but he didn't expect the seal to explode and the flames of Amaterasu to appear enveloping him. Issei Solo watched as the dragon screamed in pain until after a few minutes it stopped and began to disintegrate. At that point the brown-haired boy deactivated his Mangekyo Sharingan and fell to the ground screaming in pain. Once he relaxed, he kept his pain at bay. He began to train, since he could stay as long as he wanted, so he decided to train and then release Hashirama's cells. So another 5 months passed. Where the brown-haired boy adopted Madara's attitude along with his features, he was now a replica of Madara, but in miniature. He now has black hair with hints of brown, but I'm still going to keep calling him brown-haired, since now I would have to call him black-haired, but brown-haired is more comfortable. The chestnut finished stretching and headed towards where the Senju cells were. Issei. Well, now I guess I can remove the seal. That time I saw him he was fighting against Alduin. And when I tried to remove it I couldn't, I guess it was created to be able to be removed once he had defeated Alduin. In that he went to remove the personal seal and stopped centimeters away from carrying out his action. Issei. I'm surprised you're still alive. But I guess I won, so you can't do anything to me, or can you? Alduin. Indeed, I cannot do anything to you. And the answer you want is simple, in my world dragons are, so to speak, immortal. We can die, but after a few millennia or centuries, depending on the dragon, it will be resurrected. The only way to kill us is for a dragon slayer to absorb our souls, otherwise we will continue to appear. Issei. So in this world you are practically immortal. But I doubt you have come to tell me your story. What have you come for? Alduin. Haha, well, that old man told me that if I agreed to be one of your summons, I could go out into the real world, and as you can understand, I don't want to stay here forever. Issei. It's fine. It would be a waste to abandon you in this place with the abilities you possess. I hope we get along well. Alduin. Well, I'm more into making enemies than friends, but I guess we could become partners. Issei Solo looked at him and then ripped off the seal. A light blinded him and brought him back to reality. In the reality. Issei woke up suddenly and then stood up. Issei. Finally home. By the way, where's Alduin? Alduin. I'm here, worm. Said the now mini dragon who was lying on the chestnut's bed. Issei. I find it very practical that you can manipulate your size. But now I'm hungry, very hungry, he said as he ran to the kitchen and began to raid the fridge. The next day Issei woke up to go down to breakfast but was surprised to find that there was nothing there. Issei. What? You don't think that after emptying the fridge there would be anything left, do you? Hey, you'll have to eat breakfast on the way, so take some money and go to the academy. I hope you're not late. He said as he began to push the brown-haired boy until he took him out of the house with his things. Issei. I don't know what surprises me more, that my mother hasn't killed me or that she hasn't noticed my physical change. Well, what does it matter, it's time to go to the academy. He said to start walking in the direction of his destination. A few minutes passed in which the brown-haired boy had bought a huge sandwich. The brown-haired boy had wondered why he was so hungry, but deduced that it was because of his physical condition. Since he would have to eat more to stay at 100%. Upon arriving at the academy, all the students stared at the brunette, even though it was difficult for everyone to recognize him, but it didn't take a genius to deduce that the only boy who has radical changes in a single day is the brunette. But the aforementioned just continued on his way until he reached his class, then he sat down and began to meditate a little, since it wouldn't hurt to talk to Drake and learn more things, but a voice brought him out of his trance. Alduin. So this is a school. Just by looking at the atmosphere I know this is boring. Can't I kill someone? I'm hungry, you know. Issei Solo looked down to see Alduin's head peeking out from his zipper. Issei. Well, now you have to put up with it. First of all, you shouldn't have come, and second, if you had left earlier, I would have given you some of my sandwich. Now just sleep or do whatever you want, as long as you don't bother me or cause me problems, you're free. Alduin. You're so boring, I doubt we'll ever be partners like this. I hope you let me do what I want in battle. He said before disappearing into the chestnut suitcase. Greg. Hey mate, who is that dragon? I sense a great power coming from him, I think he is even stronger than mine. In my story Alduin is stronger than the celestial dragons, but he is not stronger than the dragon gods, you could say he is in between. Issei. I'll tell you later, now I have to hold on. He said to prepare for the next hours of the academy. Chapter 5. Issei had already finished classes. So he went for a walk, arriving at what would be a square in which for some strange reason there was no one. But he quickly noticed that on a bench, there was the nun he helped to fuged a bit these days. Now can you tell me what you're doing here alone? Asia. Well, I left the church to hang out. Issei. Yeah, and the fallen angel over there is coming to look for you, right? He said, turning around to see a certain fallen angel appearing from a magic circle. Rainer. Wow Asia, you've really gone far. It took me a while to find you, now come so I can give you your punishment for disobeying me. Issei. Well, we meet again, this time I'll be the one to rip out your intestines. He said activating the Sharingan. Asia. Issei wait. Rainer. Issei. You weren't dead. Well this time you're saved since I'm coming for the nun, then I'll come for you. Issei. Try it. He said to appear behind the fallen strike. Rainer seeing the brunette's intentions could only turn her body a little to avoid the blow. But it was of little use since Issei managed to graze her, which sent her flying, and then slammed his fist against the ground, thus generating a large smoke screen. Taking advantage of this, Rainer headed towards the nun and then hugged her and covered her with her wings. When the smoke cleared and Issei saw the fallen angel next to Asia, he tried to run, but for some reason he couldn't. Looking at his arm, he could see that his blow was so strong that it remained embedded in the ground. Issei. Shit, I still don't control the Senju power and its strength. This could be a problem. He thought and then pulled his arm out of the ground. Rainer. Goodbye Issei. Then I will come to finish the job you entrusted to me. she said to begin to disappear. Issei, seeing that, quickly appeared in front of the fall to have to dodge a spear of light. Looking where it came from, he could see two fallen angels escorting Rainer, which took advantage of those seconds and disappeared into the magic circle. Issei could only watch as the two girls disappeared and then cursed himself internally. But he soon had to get out of these as the fallen angels attacked him again. Issei. Damn scum, where's Rainer? Fallen angel. If you want to know, you'll have to force it out of me, but I warn you that if you don't escape now, we will kill you. Issei. We'll see about that, scum. He said as he appeared in front of the fallen man who tried to stab him with a spear, which was stopped by the brown-haired man's hands, who took advantage and took out a kunai to embed it in the fallen man's stomach. He could only scream in pain, but the scream intensified when the brown-haired man turned the kunai still embedded in his stomach. Fallen. Hiya, damn you, I'm going to kill you. Issei. Are you going to tell me where it is or should I keep spinning? He said to spin the kunai a little more. Fallen. I'm not going to tell you anything since you're dead. He said, watching as his partner attacked from behind. Issei. That's what you think. In one moment he destroyed the spear of the first fallen and then broke his arm, thus leaving the way clear to stop the other fallen, who was surprised by the speed of the brown-haired boy. Issei quickly turned around to bend the arm of the second fallen, while the first fallen had his entrails ripped out because of the brown-haired man's turn, since he still had the kunai in his stomach. Once he was behind the second fallen and saw how the first fell to the ground almost dead. He decided to break his arm and then hit him in the head, sending him to the ground. Issei. I told you. You're just scum. Now tell me where he is. If you tell me, I might think about your deaths. Fallen 2. Okay, but don't kill me. Issei. You guys disgust me, you're so cocky at first, but you're useless in the end. Tell me where it is. Fallen 2. They are in the abandoned church, they are going to perform a ritual to extract the powers from the nun. Now let me go. Issei only looked at the first fallen who was already dead from blood loss and then looked at the second fallen. Issei. Your partner is dead, I think it would be very arrogant of you to leave here alive with the dead man, how about you both leave here dead? Fallen 2. Wait, you said you wouldn't kill me. Issei. I told you I would think about it. Not that I would set you free, now die. He said to make a fireball incinerate the fallen one. Issei. I dislike the fallen angels less and less every time. He said and disappeared in a shunshin of fire. Meanwhile in the Grimoire Club they were talking quietly until they saw the brown-haired boy appear in a whirlwind of fire. Rias. What are you doing here, Issei? Issei. I came to ask you something, and that is if you can go to the abandoned church to rescue a friend. Rias. We can't help you, because if we do, it would cause another war. Issei. How about I let that friend of yours join your clan? She has a sacred gear that has healing powers. She would be a great addition to your clan. Greg. Hey buddy, don't you think it's a bad idea to leave your friend with the Grimoire group? Issei. In a way you're right, but I don't think there's anything safer than being with Amayo's sister, she'd be better off with me, but I can't always be on top of her, so I only have this option left. Greg. Okay, mate, but I'm not really convinced. Rias. I'm sorry but I can't help you. I admit that I'm very interested in that girl, but I can't risk it. Issei. I will go save her, if I don't see you there, you can assume that I will no longer be an ally of your clan. So think about it. He said before disappearing again in a whirlwind of fire. Akeno. What are we going to do? She said looking at her king who was thoughtful. Rias. If we do it right everything will go without any problems, besides it would be a waste to let him no longer be our ally, especially when there is little time left for it to happen. Akeno. I see. So we're going in the end, right? Rias. Yes, Kaneko and Kiba go ahead, we will attack from behind. Kiba Kaneko. Okay. So they all left, leaving the club empty and in total darkness, from which a chestnut tree emerged. Issei. So something is coming, I wonder what it is, for the sister of the current Lucifer to be like this, I suppose it must be something complicated. I hope it's because of someone strong, the ones here are pure trash that don't deserve my time. Madara. I agree with that, but I doubt there is anyone strong enough to fight you, the only ones would be the faction leaders, even though you still lack experience and power. Issei. I know that, now let's go. He said to disappear. In the abandoned church. The tower and the laughing horse were seen fighting with a slightly crazy exorcist, who was at a disadvantage because of the tower. So he had no choice but to flee. Kiba. I find it strange that Issei isn't present. Kaneko. Now that you mention it, it's true. Maybe we've gone to the wrong church. Kiba. This isn't the only one, besides if we had been wrong, what the hell was Fred doing in this place? At that point, a great tremor began to be felt throughout the place, which caused the structure of the church to begin to give way. Kiba. Shit, we have to get out of here and fast. He grabbed Kaneko and ran out, just in time to see the church collapse. 5 minutes before. We can see Issei in a black suit hiding in the darkness. The suit is the one Madara wears under the armor. I don't know what it's called. He was looking like an exorcist was cursing his day, since he couldn't kill demons during the whole week. That mattered very little to Issei, but the problem is that he was protecting the entrance of where Asia was supposed to be. So he quickly sneaked away to pass by Fred without drawing his attention. Once he was in front of the closet, he removed it as quietly as possible. Which worked as well since the exorcist kept cursing out loud. Once he entered the hallway that the closet hid, he decided to close it and then create a shadow clone which disappeared from 1 second to the next. Greg. What are you going to do, buddy? Issei. I'm going to take them outside, there's someone who needs to have fun. Greg. And how will you get them out of here? Issei. You'll see. He said as he walked down to the end, where he could see a large number of exorcists and Rainer along with Asia at an altar. Issei just stomped his foot to get everyone's attention, which worked. Rainer. Damn, you are so persistent. Why don't you die? Issei just stayed silent looking at the fall which was getting more and more enraged. Rainer. You know what? It's a waste of time talking to you, but don't worry, when I get immortality, thanks to this girl's sacred gear, I'll kill you. She said to raise her arms and try to extract Asia's power, but to her surprise nothing happened. When a few seconds passed, the fall looked at the cross to see that there was no one. Issei. You are very stupid. Your pride and lust for power make you more vulnerable than you already were. He said to look to the side where the clone was with Asia in his arms. Issei. Take her. He said as he watched the clone disappear along with the nun. Rainer. Damn human, I'm going to kill you and then go after the girl, she said to create a spear of light and throw it towards the brown-haired boy. Who activated the Manjikyu Sharingan, creating a tiny part of the Susanoo to stop the spear. Issei. How about we go outside, there's someone who wants to fight. He said to activate the Susanoo, which destroyed the church and sent everyone present flying. They fell outside the church to see the Susanoo come out intact through the smoke screen. Meanwhile, the Gremory group was fighting against 2 fallen streets protecting the back of the church. But the fight stopped when they saw how the church collapsed and a few exorcists were thrown out of it to then be interrupted by Kiba and Kaneko. Kiba. President, we haven't seen Issei, I don't know what could have happened to him. Riaz. I understand, Kiba, we have to look for him. Kaneko. No need, I already know where it is. She said, looking at a place where everyone turned their heads to see the place. What they saw left them surprised, especially a certain Nekomata. In the place you could see Susanoo and Issei in the dust looking at Rainer, who didn't know what to do. Chapter 6. Everyone was silent at the sight of the power Issei was giving off, but the one who was most shocked was Kaneko. Which did not go unnoticed by anyone. Riaz. Kaneko, do you know what that thing is? She asked without taking her eyes off the Susanoo. Kaneko. I don't know, I just know that it's made up of a huge amount of chakra, so much chakra that it's impossible for someone to maintain that thing for more than 3 seconds without falling unconscious. Kiba. Then why do you continue as if nothing happened? He said, still looking at the brunette who had his arms crossed. In that, Kaneko tried to find out how it was possible, but unfortunately she couldn't find anything. Kaneko. I don't know, the only thing I can think of is that he has immense chakra reserves. While all that was happening, Issei looked at Rainer, who was slowly getting up while looking at the humanoid figure. Issei. I advised you to leave, it also goes for you fallen angels. He said, looking at the Gremory group and the 2 fallen angels aided by Susanoo. Issei. Don't worry, he won't get far, now get out of here before he gets there. Riaz. Come what? She said to see how Rainer fell from the sky and crashed against the ground. In that, a great tremor was heard behind them. The Gremory group slowly began to turn to see red eyes, which came out of the darkness to reveal Aljuan. Aljuan. How kind of you to let me have some fun, but seeing how well you handled the fall, I doubt you'll keep me entertained for long. He said, looking at the fallen woman who had several broken bones and a lot of blood on her body. Issei. Do what you want. Remember that you can't leave this area. We don't want to attract attention. Aljuan. You're so boring, and I was thinking of destroying the city a bit. Meanwhile, Riaz and her group were in the middle of their conversation without making any noise, and it was normal. It's not every day that young devils see a dragon and a person who gives off an enormous aura. Issei. Last one, Gremory, get out of here. Now, he said, so the Gremory would make a circle and go to the club. With that, Issei deactivated his Sharingan to walk away, leaving behind the exorcists and Rainer, along with Aljuan, who was quick to attack. Issei was walking while he heard the screams of agony. At that point he stopped and made a great leap, disappearing from the place. The next day, the brown-haired boy was talking to a certain nun outside the occult club. Asia. It's okay, although I'm not convinced about being with demons. Issei. It's the only option. The church won't take you in, the fallen ones, as you can see, will only use you. On the other hand, the demons will make you their servant. Of course there are times when it's horrible, but in this case they'll treat you like one of the family. So don't worry, you'll be safe here." The nun just nodded and then entered the club with the brunette. Upon entering they could see the usual. The Gremory. "Riaz. Issei, it's no wonder you're here. We have several questions to ask you." Issei. "All in good time Riaz, meet Asia. This is the girl I was telling you about." Riaz. "So this is the girl who has the sacred gear with the power to heal. I would put the name, but it's more comfortable like this." Issei. "If it's her, I brought her to you so you can join your group. I don't want anything to happen to her knowing that I can protect her. So you better defend her." He said to see Riaz nod her head. Riaz. "Okay, now can I ask you a few questions?" Issei. "Okay. But if they can be faster, all the better. I have to train." Riaz. "Okay. The first question is this. Who was the dragon that appeared before we left?" Issei. "His name is Alduin, and he is my partner," he said dryly, evading the question. Riaz. "It's okay. Kaneko, you can ask now," she said looking at the Nekomata who was serious. Strange in her, she is not the type to let her emotions come out. "Kaneko. What is it and how can you maintain that humanoid being from last night?" she said looking at Issei, who looked back at her. Issei. "That's called Susanoo. It's an ability of mine. And I can maintain it thanks to my chakra." Kaneko. "That's almost impossible, you can't have that much chakra." Issei. "Before I answer, let me ask something. Is there any more questions?" At that question, everyone fell silent, implying that there were no more questions. Issei. "Okay. In response to your accusation, I will tell and show you just one thing. If you stop trying to evade your origins along with the abilities that come with it, you would realize how much chakra I have and that I am a clone," he said before disappearing in a ball of smoke. At that everyone fell silent and then returned to normal, all except Kaneko who had left. But Issei. He was walking to go somewhere until someone called him. Greg. "Hey buddy, you still his bed about to sleep," until a magic circle appeared in his car revealing a certain Reed. Riaz. "Issei, I need your help," she said desperately looking at the brown-haired boy. Issei. "What do you need my help with?" Riaz. "My parents have betrothed me to the son of the Phoenix clan whom I don't want to marry." Issei. "And how can I help you?" Riaz. "You have to take my virginity," she said approaching the brunette who looked at her with an impassive face. Issei. "No," he said curtly, stopping the Reed abruptly. Riaz. "But it's the only way, am I not enough?" Issei. "One of the many reasons why I don't sleep with you is because you are not enough as you have said, and I also don't like you. But if we can come to a deal, is this Phoenix guy strong?" Riaz. "Yes, he is strong and also immortal." Issei. "What do you mean by immortal?" Riaz. "Very high regeneration, you can cut off any limb and it will recover immediately." Issei. "I understand, we make this deal, I release you from the commitment and you do me 2 favors." Riaz. "Okay, deal," she said as she was about to leave, but someone appeared. "Young Riaz, what would your brother think when he saw you give your virginity to a simple servant?" said a woman with silver hair and wearing a servant's outfit. Riaz. "Grafia, what is she doing here?" Grafia. "I came because your brother suspected that you would do something similar, but sleep with a servant. This is it." She couldn't finish because a blue arm slammed her against the wall. Riaz looked back and saw Issei with the Mangekyou Sharingan next to the Susanoo. But this time it was darker, since it was only bone. Issei. "Lady Grafia, I think you have the defect of overestimating the people around you because of your power, but let me warn you that I am not weak, much less someone's servant. So if you have something to say it now," he said while increasing the pressure he exerted on the silver-haired girl, who tried to free herself but without success. Riaz. "Issei, don't you know who she is? Put her down right now." Issei, upon hearing the Reed, just looked at her and summoned a scythe from a curtain of smoke and pressed a blade against the Gremory's throat. Issei. "I warned you that even though I'm your ally doesn't mean you can give me orders. So I repeat it again, don't give me orders. Do you understand?" he said while putting pressure on the Reed's neck, drawing a little blood. Riaz. "Yes, sorry," she said stuttering as she watched Issei deactivate the Mangekyou Sharingan and stop pointing the scythe at her. Issei. "Now, Big C," he said while looking at them as if they were nothing. Grafia. "I'm really sorry, we're leaving now. I'm also sorry about what happened before," she said a little scared and then grabbed her hands and left the place. Greg. "Haha mate, you don't know what you just did. You just scared and threatened the current Lucifer's wife. Not many, if any, have the courage to do that or even get out alive." Issei. "Devils, from what I see, are arrogant by nature. Arrogance without knowing your limits or knowing who you shouldn't cross is useless, it only causes you trouble. Take yourself as an example, you can be arrogant with most of the world, but I highly doubt you would be towards a dragon god. Greg. Hahaha, he's right. I don't know what idiot would think of being arrogant in front of an opponent stronger than you. Issei. That's right. I'm going to sleep now, I'm already sleepy. He said as he went to sleep. The next day Issei woke up and got dressed like every morning, he went to class and everything went normally, until at the exit he felt two presences in the club. One was Grafia and the other was someone unknown. So like a good reincarnation of Madara he went to the place to see if there was someone who would make him feel the excitement of battle. Upon arriving, he would open the door and enter without permission, all to see a blonde boy who seemed to be from the upper class, as well as being older than Issei. He was sitting on the couch next to Arias who did not seem very comfortable with the presence of that guy. Issei just looked at the entire room and then looked back at the blonde who looked back at him. Chapter 7. Before I start I'm going to say what I'll do based on Issei's couples. Since it's been pretty even between a harem and a small harem, so I'm leaning more towards the small one, since it will be easier for me to capture them. There will be 5 girls. The 2 that will definitely be there will be Kuroka and Yusaka. I'll leave the remaining 3 up to you. I warn you that there won't be any from the Gremory clan, both those who are already part of it and those who will join. I chose these 2 as Issei's partner because they use chakra and because I like them as a couple. Well, now that everything has been said, I leave you with the chapter. Issei was looking at the blonde who stood up facing the brown-haired boy. Issei. This is the one who is engaged to Rias. And here I was expecting to see someone strong. He said crossing his arms with his typical stoic face. Razor. Rias, teach your servants that they have to have more respect towards a high class like me. He said while a magic circle appeared behind him, from which his entourage emerged. Razor. As you can see, I have my complete set of pieces. I have a numerical advantage and experience in battle, so you should have respect for me, lower class. Issei just looked at him and then smiled. Issei. Well then take that respect and shove it up your ass. That only made everyone laugh except for the Razor himself. Razor. Damn low-class devil, how dare you, he couldn't finish as Issei interrupted him. Issei. 15. That simple word left everyone intrigued, including the Razor himself. So the brown-haired boy continued. Issei. By 15 I mean points which are deadly or weak points of the human body. Which I could have used to kill you. Razor. Haha, very funny. Putting aside the stupidity you just said, I warn you that I am immortal, you couldn't kill me. He said with arrogance, which disappeared when he saw and felt various cuts and punctures all over his body. The others only saw how several deep cuts emerged from the blonde's body, causing him to fall to the ground. Issei. Better that you are immortal, more pain to cause. He said while his face turned cold and emotionless. In that one of the Phoenix Knights put her sword to the brown-haired man's throat. Cirrus. You know that for what you just did I can kill you without any repercussions, right? Issei. And why can you kill me? He is immortal so nothing happens. He said still looking at the knight without caring about the sword on his neck. Cirrus. You have attacked a successor of one of the most important noble houses of the underworld, even if you have not killed him, it is considered attempted murder. So I have the right to kill you. Issei. Well, as you understand, right now I would be pursued by the law, so I would become a fugitive from justice, so I can also kill you. Since I doubt there is anything worse than death. He said to look at the girl's back, who turned to see the entire Razor entourage looking at the ceiling, wherein Issei was hanging from it. Issei. What did you think? That I would be so impulsive and let myself be seen so easily without first gathering some information? From what I see, you are very impulsive and you let yourselves be carried away by your rank or titles. That reminds me of someone. He said to glance sideways at Grafia. Who shuddered a little at the memory of the Susanoo. Razor. Damn you, how dare you mock me, I'm going to burn everything in you, he said angrily while carrying a fireball in his hand. Grafia. Stop. Surziches saw this coming, so he proposed to hold a rating game, also that Rias can have a chance not to get married, instead, if she doesn't win, she will have to marry you no matter what. Issei. What I was saying, spoiled brat. He said to himself referring to Rias. Razor. Fine, I accept, but I'm not responsible if an accident happens and the pawn dies. Grafia. I'm sorry but Issei-sen will not participate in the fight since he is not part of Ria's peerage, he is just an ally. Razor. What? You're telling me he's a human? Issei. Indeed, I am human, what do you think? Being defeated by a supposedly inferior race is a bit humiliating, right? But what could I expect from a braggart? Razor. Now we are leaving, the air of the human world makes me nauseous. He said as he left followed by Grafia. Issei. MPH. Alright, it's not really my thing, so feel free to be trained by me. I hope you have a training place. Riaz. Yes, we have one in the mountains. Issei. Very well, send me the instructions with your familiar to my room, I have things to do. He said so that from one moment to the next he exploded into smoke along with the other clone, which had not yet disappeared. Asia. Issei changes more every day, do you know the reason? Bakeno. It's not that he changes. He's like that, it's just that when there are people he doesn't know or doesn't like, he behaves that way. Riaz. Or so we think, since we've only seen him like that twice, since with us he tends to be neutral and sometimes a little cold. With Issei. He was walking through the streets of his city calmly. His hair, previously messy and spiky, was now simply messy and straightened, and he had also changed his clothes. He was now wearing a grey shirt that was unbuttoned, leaving the top of his chest exposed. Over the shirt he wore a black jacket that was rolled up to the bottom of his elbow, revealing a silver bracelet on his wrist with a silver ring on his pinky finger. On the bottom he wore black trousers with a white belt, which had a simple gold buckle. To finish off he wore shoes that matched the outfit he was wearing. Issei was walking calmly until he came across a cafe. Issei. Well, it never hurts to take a break. Don't you think, Dreg? Dreg. Indeed, partner, you've been doing the same routine for quite some time, it wouldn't hurt to rest a bit. Without anything else to say, Issei entered the cafeteria, where he sat down to wait for someone to serve him. At that, the brown-haired boy turned his gaze towards a girl with black hair and two thin pigtails which simulated a large bow. Her eyes were golden hue. Her clothing was simple, but it was noticeable that the girl liked to play with men, since she let just enough of her large bust be seen, so much so that surely any man would want to see more. Greg. Wow, buddy, looks like someone's got a thing for you. Issei. First, that sounded really old, second, instead of saying stupid things try to perceive the aura that she gives off. Dreg upon hearing what was said focused on the girl, to realize what it was about. At that moment a worker arrived to make his request. Waiter. Good afternoon, young man, how may I serve you? Issei. Anything else? Issei. No, just one thing. I'll be with the girl from that place, so if you'd be so kind, I'll bring the coffee to that place. Waiter. Understood. Now take it away. At that moment when the waiter left Issei stood up and walked towards the girl. When he arrived he nodded with a calm smile. Yes, I'm looking for someone. It's okay. Issei. So you're looking for someone, how about I keep you company? No thanks, I don't need company. He said somewhat distantly towards the brown-haired boy. Issei. Let's go. If I keep her company she might be calmer, making your search more fruitful. Besides, I could help you. I know many people. At that the girl looked at him and then sighed. Okay. But don't bother too much. At that Issei just laughed quietly and then sat down, just in time for his coffee to arrive. Issei. Thanks. I'll call you if I need anything else. He said as he stirred the spoon around the coffee. Issei. Well. What's your name? I doubt we can have a proper conversation without knowing your name. My name is Kuroka. She said looking at the brown-haired boy who put aside the spoon to take a sip of coffee. In a few moments he would settle into the chair. Issei. Kuroka, nice name. My name is Uchiha Issei. He said making Dreg wonder and a certain Uchiha raise an eyebrow. Kuroka. The surname seems to be from an important lineage. Issei. I won't deny it, it's a shame that such a lineage no longer exists. Kuroka. Can I know why? Issei. No, not yet. I only tell it to people I trust. And as you can understand, it's not like I'm going to tell it to a girl I just met. He said as he took another sip of his coffee. Kuroka. I understand. Well, you've volunteered to help me, so ask. Issei. Alright. He said while putting the coffee cup on the table. What's your name, appearance, likes, job? You know, the basics. Kuroka. Well, I can't say her name, but I can tell you other things. She's a girl, short with white hair and yellow eyes like mine. Right now I don't know anything else about her. At that Issei laughed softly, drawing Kuroka's attention. Issei. I guess your sisters or something like that, right? He said while his smile remained on his mouth. Kuroka. Something like that. Tell me, do you know her? Issei. Could it be, he said to take another sip of his coffee and see how the brunette frowned. Kuroka. No Thursday with me. You don't know who you're talking to. After finishing speaking, she saw the brunette lower his cup, now empty, and smiled even more, but always keeping an elegant touch. Issei. Since I came in here I know perfectly well who I'm talking to. It's not very common for a Nekomata to be in the human world. But knowing that you're looking for Kaneko gives me an idea of why she doesn't use her powers. At that Kuroka immediately got up and approached the brunette. Kuroka. How do you know who he is? Issei. Don't worry, you're putting on a show. And I know who it is since I know a lot of people. I propose a deal. Kuroka. What would it be? she said a little calmer. Issei. You give me information and in exchange I give you information about Kaneko and I train her. Hopefully I can break the barrier that separates her from using her powers. Kuroka. And how am I supposed to be able to contact you? The brown-haired boy then took out a piece of paper and a pen, writing something down on it. He then handed it to her. Issei. Here's my phone number. If you need anything or I need anything from you, I'll call you. So call me so I can save your number. He said as he stood up and adjusted his jacket. Issei. See you Kuroka. He said as he left, leaving the money needed to pay for what the two of them took. Chapter 8. Issei continued walking towards his house in silence after having spoken with Kuroka. Which was broken by a question. Madara. I find it a bit strange that you've used the surname Uchiha. Why is that? Issei. Well, since I'm an Uchiha thanks to yourselves, I think it's time to put the Uchiha surname in a big way. Don't you think? Madara could only smile and then nod his head. Madara. It seems like you're learning. I think you're on the right track. If you keep going like this, I'll teach you more things you don't know yet. Issei. Wow, that makes me curious, what would you teach me? Madara. I'll just tell you that there is a Dijutsu which surpasses the Manjikyu Sharingan. And the luck that you have is that to awaken it, you have to have both Senju and Uchiha cells. Issei. Well, I guess I'll have to work a little harder. But I can wait. I doubt there's anyone out there who can fight Manjikyu, at least for now. Issei then arrived home and after having dinner and doing what he always did, he went to sleep. The next day Issei woke up early and then appeared at the club in a sunshine. When he arrived he could see everything was empty. So he decided to sit on Ria's chair. At that moment a certain dragon appeared on the desk. Aljuin. I'm back. Issei. You were gone. Aljuin. Yes, perhaps you hadn't noticed. Issei. It's not like I'm really interested in what you do. Besides, you're always sleeping. Does this affect all dragons? Since that lazy drake does the same thing. Aljuin. I don't know, it could be, but I have an excuse. I can't do anything since you won't let me. Dreg. Hey, I have an excuse too I'm sealed he said, interrupting the conversation. Which didn't affect anything, since they ignored him as if nothing had happened. Issei. Very well, and what have you gone to do? Aljuin. Nothing special. Just doing my job as a world eater. Of course, I haven't devoured worlds, just a few souls. That's how I get stronger. Issei. A nice story, and it's also helped me pass the time. I can already hear them coming. He said as he turned towards the window, listening to the voices of the Grimoires. Rias. Alright girls, today we'll be training at the mansion in the mountains. She said clearly forgetting that Kiba was a man. Kaneko. I hope Issei won't be too harsh on us. She said as she opened the door, letting everyone through. But before anyone could speak, Issei did it first. Issei. You're wrong Kaneko I'll be very hard okay no V. Issei. I'm sorry for you, but my training is going to be hell. A war would be a field of flowers next to them. He said while turning to look at them with the Sharingan active, all to give it a dramatic touch. The only thing that was heard in the room was everyone's attempt to get the saliva to pass through their throats. Issei. We'll start with the following, since the training place is in the mountains, it's obvious that we'll have to walk. So there your training will begin. Akeno. What do you mean? We'll all have to bring supplies to get through. Say. Haha, that's not training, for me it's a walk. Work on speed, agility, reflexes and to a lesser extent strength. Kiba. You rely on fast and precise combat, which leaves your strength aside. So we'll work on your strength and, to a lesser extent, your other skills. Akeno and Rias. You two focus on magic attacks, one to a lesser extent than the other. So we'll be working on strength, agility, reflexes, endurance, speed, and to a lesser extent magic attacks. Asia. It would be the same as Rias and Akeno, only to a lesser extent, since you focus on healing your companions, but you still have to defend yourself. After finishing speaking, everyone remained silent until Rias broke the silence. Rias. But Issei, the pieces that each of us has are specific in what we must train to get the most out of them. Issei. Poor naive girl. The chess pieces, in your case, specify the combat affinity that each individual has, the problem is that you don't realize what they are really for. They serve to know what each person lacks. For example. Kaneko is a rook, do you know what the problem with these is? Rias. They are heavy and have low speed, but their attack is devastating. Issei. Indeed, then he is telling you what fails, what would happen if he faced a horse. Akeno. That the horse would win because of speed and agility. Issei. Point for Akeno. Now I ask you a question, how about we eliminate the tower's weaknesses without leaving aside its strengths? Kiba. That would be a tower with enough speed and agility to face a horse, having in its favor the brute force that it possesses. Issei. Indeed, how about we put it into practice for all the pieces? Kaneko. Whatever the piece, it can face any enemy piece. Being in pairs, in addition to having the advantage that it is already a natural possession. Issei. Alright, now let's get to work. Several hours had passed, and the Gremory clan could be seen climbing, carrying heavier weights, adding his own equipment. The difficulty, making everyone have to dodge them as they advance. Clone Issei. We have to lighten this up, what do we do? Issei. I have an idea. He said to activate his Sharingan and put everyone in an illusion. Clone Issei. What have you done? Issei. You just watch. At that the clone paid more attention to hear a voice which he had already heard about Madara. Haha, the flames of today's youth are magnificent. Haha, at that the Gremories turned to see a man with green spandex next to a cheap solo set. Even if you looked closely you could see the typical microphone badly placed on top of the man. Issei clone. Mido Guy Pam Pam Payam. Effects 10 of 10. Mido Guy. Hahaha, how about we have a race, if I lose I'll run around the whole mountain with my hands 1,000 times. Let's get started. He said as he started running towards the occult club. They only screamed to run and dodge everything Issei threw as if their lives depended on it. And they were not wrong, since the life of your brain would be seriously reduced by the traumas caused by that man. After a few minutes everyone reached the top, where the mansion next to a large forest awaited them. Riaz. We're finally here. She gasped. But everyone was stunned when they saw the strange man again. Lido Guy. Hahaha, today's youth is magnificent, now go around the mountain 1,000 times with your hands. He said to make the attempt, which only remained in that, since Issei dispelled the illusion making it disappear. Issei. Alright, you've completed the first part. Now go get ready. Riaz. What was that? Issei. It was an illusion, now quickly. Let's get to work. The Keno. But aren't we going to rest? Issei. Hahaha. No. He said bluntly and then activated the Sharingan and created 5 colons. Issei. Get to work or I'll free the man in spandex. At that everyone started working with the various colonists. Greg. Seriously, mate, how did you meet that guy? Issei. That was when I was younger, I don't remember. He said avoiding the question. Greg. Boy, I'm millennia older than you can't have youth yet, you're too young. Issei. And you can't ask questions, you're too lazy. Greg. There you have a point, I'll let it pass. 5 days passed like this, where everyone had improved, so the brown-haired boy put them to fight with someone at their level. Issei. Alduin. Alduin? What? Issei. I told you it was a test fight and the first thing you do is eat one of your opponent's limbs. Alduin. What? I had to eat, it's not my fault that your little arm doesn't satisfy my appetite. He said while taking a piece of meat out of his teeth. Issei. Now the Gremory group will not be at its optimal level. Alduin. But why? Just because he ripped off one of his arms doesn't mean he'll hinder the group, let him manage. Issei. That's not the problem is that he can't give his best. He said looking to the side seeing a semi-giant with one less arm while the Gremory group tried to defeat him. Alduin. You see. It doesn't affect anything, they're still just as pathetic. Issei. I know, but it would add more difficulty. He said to look at everyone but was quickly taken out of his thoughts because of the phone. Issei. Who will call me now? He said to look at the number and see that it was Kuroka, then pick it up. Issei. This is the great Issei speaking. He said with a smile on his face. Kuroka. I'm calling you to see how things are going. Issei. You know the price, don't you, kitten? At that, Alduin turned to look at him with a raised eyebrow. Alduin. Cooked. Issei. What? Sometimes I have to have fun. I'm not a bitter antisocial like a certain someone. He said covering the microphone. Kuroka. What do you mean, kitten? Issei. Well, it's a nickname, I doubt your youngest kitten would like your name very much. Kuroka. It's okay. But don't get used to it. Issei. Alright, what do you want? Kuroka. How is Kaneko? Issei. Well, I'm trying to get him to break that barrier, but there's not much luck. Right now he's fighting alongside his friends against a test enemy. They're doing pretty well for their level. Kuroka. Who are your friends? Issei. I can't say a name, but I can give nicknames regarding their characteristics. The first is the spoiled girl, the second is the provocative half-breed, the third is the evil nun, and the fourth is the sissy little prince. I'm like Dr. House. At that, Kuroka patted herself on the face. Kuroka. It's the Gremory group, right? Issei. Yes, Paris que captas todo la primera. Kuroka. It's not that, it's that I already knew, I just thought he was with other people. Issei. Well, there you have the answer. Now you. Kuroka. I have something that interests you, the white one is with me, and I have to say that he is very strong. She knows that Issei is the red one since they have talked a bit. Issei. Wow, that does interest me, I hope she gives me an entertaining dance, I hope I'm not disappointed. He said with his usual attitude and then hung up. Leaving the Nekomata missed by the brown-haired boy's attitude. Chapter 9. The days of training for the Gremory group had already passed. Issei knew that they still had a long way to go, he even doubted that they would win. But at least they would give him an intense beating. Issei. Alright, training is over. But that doesn't mean you're ready to beat that piece of shit Razor. So do your best. Because if not, I'll give you twice as horrible training as this one, got it? At that, everyone nodded, willing to win more than anything so they wouldn't suffer that fate. At that moment a certain queen arrived. Raphia. Riaz, the battlefield is now ready for the confrontation, now I will take you to the place and then explain the rules. At that, everyone was transported to the battlefield, except for Issei. Raphia. In case I haven't said it before, Issei won't be participating since he's not a member of the Gremory group, without anything else to say I'll start explaining the rules and what it's about. A few minutes passed as the Mayu Queen explained what it consisted of. Meanwhile, a certain chestnut was in a room with Sona and her entourage, along with Surziches. Sona. Issei, I have been told that you have trained the Gremory group, how do you see the fight developing? Issei. A defeat. He said, missing everyone. Sona. Why do you say that? Weren't you strong? Issei. Exactly, but even though those who have trained there doesn't mean they have experience, right now they would be equal, but experience makes the balance lean towards Razor's side. It's simple. And he was not wrong, after half an hour the Gremory group was defeated, however they defeated the entire Razor group. But thanks to his regeneration he achieved victory. Issei. You see. The Gremory group could have beaten the chicken pieces very easily, but they were damaged thanks to their experience, which did not make it easy for them. Now, without further ado, I leave. He said and disappeared in a flash. 2 days passed, during which the brunette did not speak to the Gremory, since he was not in the human world. Right now Issei was in his room. At that moment, a magic circle appeared in the center of his room, making him look at it with boredom. In that circle, Graphia appeared in her maid uniform, all without realizing that red eyes were stalking her in the darkness. Issei. You have a certain mania for entering other people's rooms, and that's bad. A disaster could happen, he said, looking at the silver-haired girl, who felt a chill, and then looked back to see nothing. Looking back at Issei, she could see a dragon to her left which was looking at her with anything but friendly intentions. Alduin. I don't like people entering my territory just like that. That means death. Issei, how about I eat her so she doesn't bother me? Issei. I'm sorry but you can't, I don't want the underworld to disappear. Tell me Graphia, what do you want? I asked without looking at her. Graphia. Surzich's Sama sent me to give this to you. She said, showing a paper with an engraving on it. Issei. And what is that? Graphia. That's a seal that will take you to Ria's wedding. Surzich's wants you to challenge Razor in order to break the arranged marriage. Issei. I don't know, I'll think about it. In the meantime you can leave it wherever you want. He said to close his eyes. With that, Graphia left the paper on the desk, but not before giving the dragon a few glances, who did not lose hope that Issei would give him the order to eat her. As soon as she left the paper, she left as quickly as possible. Alduin. You saw just as I feared. I miss that pleasant feeling. Issei. Alright, now they'll know you exist, so what? How about we go and fight a bit? Alduin. I don't think it's a bad idea, it never hurts to stretch your muscles with some insects. He said while Issei took the paper and teleported next to him. Meanwhile at the wedding. Everything was going well, the bride and groom were already at the altar, but then the central door fell down due to a kick from a certain chestnut tree, which appeared next to Alduin. Issei. Who wants to die first? He said with a crazy smile along with his Sharingan. He looked closely and saw that it wasn't Riaz. Issei. UPS wrong wedding, sorry. He said putting the door back in its place and then poking his head through it. Issei. By the way. Congratulations, have a nice wedding. He said and then closed the door and left with Alduin, leaving the guests scared shitless, along with a best man who fell to the ground unconscious. Yes, at the Gremory wedding, everyone was waiting for the bride, who was beginning to walk down the aisle. Then a strange sound was heard in the distance, everyone fell silent and then continued, downplaying it. They continued like this until they were about to go up to the altar, where the sound was heard again, but this time it was closer. Now the atmosphere seemed a bit uncomfortable since they didn't know what it was. But despite everything, they continued with the wedding. When they reached the altar, a few minutes passed for everyone to get ready. But this time the sound was heard clearly, being a roar, which made everyone scared. Before anyone did anything the wall was destroyed, leaving a large smoke screen. When it dissipated a little, Alduin could be seen with half his body inside the church, or whatever the demons have. Next to Issei, the Kulil was below him with Madara's armor, along with his Sharingan. Issei. Good night everyone, you can rest assured, Alduin won't do anything if you don't do anything stupid. So I know where you are. Everyone did as he said except for one guard who tried to be a hero, which didn't end very well, since being devoured by a dragon isn't very good, let's say. Issei. I warned you. If anyone else wants to be a hero, get out now. My friend is very hungry and wouldn't mind eating a few demons for dinner. He said without showing any emotion. Razor. What the hell are you doing here, insolent human? Issei. Nothing in particular, I just want to dance a little. At that Razor was going to launch against the brown-haired boy who was stopped by Surziches. Surziches. If you want to fight, it will be in the form of a raiding, I will not allow anyone to get hurt or the place to be destroyed more than it already is. He said looking at the brown-haired boy who defended himself. Issei. It's not my fault, there was no parking nearby, I had no choice but to park here. I was saying to get a few drops out of everyone. Issei. Okay, enough of the nonsense, let's get started or what? I said, leaving jokes aside. Razor. Very well, but I warn you that if I kill you, it will not be my fault. At that, Issei and Razor along with their entourage were transported to a rather peculiar battlefield. Since it was a chessboard with 4 huge pieces in each corner. Razor. Are you ready to die, you disgusting human? Issei. You have a lot of arrogance for a sack of shit, I'd have fun tearing your body and your pride to shreds. He said with an evil smile as his Sharingan spun. But then someone spoke. Greg. Mate, how about you try out that weapon you've been making? Issei. It would be a good idea. If I had noticed I wouldn't have brought the armor. He said and then extended his hand while a red and black aura in the shape of a swirl formed in his hand. Warning, what is going to appear now is purely aesthetic, it will not have any power of this weapon. It is just aesthetic. If by any chance you wanted to have the powers, when using them the Sharingan and chakra will be nullified. Issei. Come at me Rost, he said as his upper part was torn off revealing his quite muscular body. In that a scythe of considerable size appeared floating in the brown-haired man's hand. Which began to have changes. One of them was that his arm which held the scythe changed to one with a demonic appearance, along with a shoulder pad of the same material which reached his chest. Finally, his left eye was changed to a red one with a dragon-like pupil. Issei. Meet Rost, the dark scythe. He said as a part of the scythe opened revealing an eye. Rost. Issei, I'm not a toy that you can take out and put away whenever you want. Issei. Don't complain. You can enjoy the blood of these scum. He said so that the scythe would look at his opponents. Rost. Hahaha, it's not the same as hearing their screams of agony and pain when I'm going to kill them. But I'm happy if you make them suffer a little. Issei. Very well, I will not be merciful. He said to launch himself at one of the pawns who did not react in time and screamed in pain when she was pierced in the leg. Which made the scythe laugh. In that the brown-haired boy took Rost off his leg and then spun 360 degrees, hitting the girl's head with the back of the scythe, causing her to be eliminated. At that the brown-haired girl looked at the others with a devilish smile and then jumped on them. Meanwhile at the altar. Briaz. What's wrong with Issei? He's never acted like that. She said while looking at the massacre that the brunette was doing, who was smiling from ear to ear. Alduin. Simple. Issei could be said to have 3 personalities. The first is cheerful and joking when he is with someone he likes, the second is the one you usually see, which is cold and calculating. Meanwhile the third is when he summons Rost, being made of bad thoughts and darkness corrupts Issei to a certain degree. Making him behave like this, he still does not fully master it. Gibba. And apart from that, what's special about it? Alduin. Not much, just that it is indestructible, Issei created it to have his own weapon which will last forever. Back to the battlefield. Issei had destroyed most of Razor's group. All that remained were pools of blood along with 2 bishops, a knight and Razor. Issei. That's all. They wouldn't even be of any use to me as a warm-up. At that, the knight thoughtlessly launched herself towards the brunette, who only launched a downward slash, causing a deep cut to appear from the knight's shoulder to her waist, causing her to fall to the ground. Issei. Don't underestimate me, and Uchiha is not one to take it easy. If we were in another situation, don't doubt that I would eliminate you in an instant. He said and then hit the girl's head, knocking her unconscious. Issei. Who will be next? He said to see how Razor launched himself towards him when he was going to cut the phoenix in half, he stepped aside. Showing a fire attack courtesy of the 2 bishops. Issei seeing this covered himself with a scythe, but it was of little use to him, the fire enveloped him. Or so everyone thought, as suddenly a fire tornado began to form in Issei's place. It was spinning Rost at high speed and then stopping and pinning him to the ground, thus vanishing the tornado. Issei. Is that what they call a fire attack? I was afraid they would be weak. But that much. He said and then released Rost and made some hand poses. Issei. Fire style, huge fireball. In that, a huge fireball headed towards the bishops, which could not dodge and received the full impact, being eliminated. Issei. Very well, it's just you left. He said to point the scythe at the blonde who was intimidated by it. At that, Issei positioned himself behind the phoenix to pierce it with the scythe. Following this, he threw it into the air and then continued with a horizontal cut which seemed to have cut it in half. Once Issei was on top of the blonde, he turned 180 degrees and then kicked him in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Where a clone of the brown-haired boy was waiting for him and then created a pillar of earth which hit Razor's back. Issei, neither short nor lazy, took advantage of the fact that the pillar was rising to where he was and then used his strength, dealing a blow which destroyed the pillar, along with the phoenix's body, letting his little body that remained fall to the ground. Issei. That should be enough for you, or do you want more? He said as his grip on Rost grew stronger. Razor. Rot, you disgusting human. He said between grunts while he slowly regenerates. Issei. Nice last words. He said to charge his scythe to end Razor's life. Seconds away from being executed, he was saved by his sister. Ravel. Please leave my brother alone, I beg you. The girl said, crying, as she stood in front of the chestnut tree. Issei. Give me one reason not to kill him right now. Ravel. I know he hasn't been the best person in the world. But I can make him change. But please don't kill him. At that, the brown-haired boy quickly lowered the scythe towards the girl, who closed her eyes expecting pain or death itself. But instead she heard something crash into the ground. Issei. This time you're saved, Razor, but if you screw up again don't doubt that not even your sister will save you. You don't play with the Uchiha and you get out alive. He said, leaving Rost nailed centimeters from the blonde's neck. Who watched in terror as the scythe disappeared in a dark mist along with the brown-haired boy's changes. But that everyone returned to the altar where Cerziches was waiting for them. Cerziches. Congratulations, Issei, you have won. Tell me what you wish for and I will grant it to you. Issei. I just want them to break the engagement and next time give me a fight worthy of my qualities. He said while mounting Alduin, who took off leaving everyone stunned. Alduin. In the end I did nothing. Issei. You'll have your battle soon. Just wait. He said as he lay down to sleep. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.